CPIM leaders, including Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan and party leader Sitaram Yechury, participated in an anti-Israel protest in Delhi. These leaders protested outside the AKG Bhawan over the Israel-Hamas war with the message, and I quote, "Stop this genocidal aggression on Gaza." The Kerala Chief Minister was present at the protests in Delhi at a time when bomb blasts were reported in his state. One woman has been killed and around 40 people have been injured in multiple blasts at a Jehovah's Witness prayer meeting at a convention center at Kalamassery. And this is, of course, a district in Kochi. As we talk about this, there have been multiple incidents in the past also where Pinarayi's way of governance has been questioned. And now, as this development takes place, a question that surfaces yet again is that how will he be judged as multiple blasts rocked the state while he was protesting in the national capital? And what has been done by this government to increase or rather enhance the intelligence network to prevent or preempt such an act? Rahul Ishwar, Hindu activist, joins us on the broadcast. Professor Ronnie K. Baby, political analyst, also with us on the show. Professor Madhav Nalapad, editorial director of the Sunday Guardian, joins us for this conversation. And last but not the least, Vinita Hariharan, BJP spokesperson, is joining us as well at this point in time. Professor Nalapad, sir, I'll begin with you. Sir, what has happened today? A lot is left for interrogation, investigation, for probe agencies. The NIA is already a part of what's going on in terms of picking up the pieces and, taking stock of what happened. But the fact of the matter is that Kerala, when it comes to its terror CV, has not been very, very impressive. The ISIS is perhaps an organization which has been driven out of most countries, but it still continues to have influence in a state like Kerala. From the angle or from the prism of what happened today, Professor, what do you make of what the government has done and where they should improve?
Well, as for what happened today, the initial information suggests that it's a Lone Ranger kind of an attack. There was an individual who was very unhappy with the Jehovah's Witnesses, and the Jehovah's Witnesses have their own concept of Christianity. They don't believe in the Trinity. They don't believe in celebrating Christmas. And there are multiple ways in which, frankly, they are very different from mainstream members of the Christian community. So this gentleman, Mr. Martin, who claimed to have set off these blasts, he said that he was quite unhappy and upset with the way they were functioning. But that does not excuse the fact, nor the fact that it was obviously a low-intensity blast. Otherwise, in a hall of packed to 2,000 people, you have one fatality, when there were 3 blasts. So all I'd like to say is that this does not detract from the fact it was an act of terror. There's no question about it. Whatever be the motive, it was an act of terror, and it is therefore has to be classified as such. In that context, I'd like to say, basically, Mr. Pinrayi Vijayan or anybody else protesting about the Israeli action without talking about October 7, without talking about what happened in Israel, I think that sends an unfortunate message. And I think it's important for all politicians in India to condemn terror roundly. And the reality is that this particular situation that has taken place in Gaza began on October 7 with the Hamas terror attacks. So I think without naming out, calling and shaming Hamas, without pointing the fact that it was a terror attack that has made the Israelis launch this operation, I think it's unfortunate, and I think it's very important for politicians across the country to acknowledge acts of terror everywhere in the world, because terror acts are wrong anywhere in the world conducted by anybody. So that, I think, is the point. But as far as this is concerned, well, yes, fortunately, there was only one fatality so far, and it seems the person has confessed. But it is an act of terror, and that's all the more reason why politicians in Kerala, in particular what you mentioned, should basically condemn terror in all its forms, wherever terror takes place, as for example in Israel on October 7th.
But they don't condemn it, sir. In fact, yesterday there was a congregation where, the former leader of Hamas was, more or less like a chief guest. Even Shashi Tharoor attended that particular congregation. That is obviously going against the nation's stated policy and its statements in accordance with what has happened in Israel.
Well, I'd like to say there's a very well-funded lobby behind Hamas, and that involves a particular country that Sunday Guardian very soon after a blast called the superpower sponsor. No prizes for guessing what that country is, and they have a lot of money at their disposal, and frankly, that is, as a consequence of that, there is in social media a whole lot of artificial intelligence images. For example, there's an image of an individual in Gaza streaming with blood and with 5 children in his hand. It was later confirmed that this was not a real image. It was created by artificial intelligence. There's a flood of such misinformation on the internet, giving some horrible images of the situation in Gaza, which was not there, frankly, where the situation in Israel was concerned. So we have a problem beneath, and that problem is the use by malign actors of artificial intelligence and other means to spread wrong propaganda on the internet and confuse minds and basically, convert the aggressor into the victim.
Right, sir. Let me also rope in Vinita Hariharan, BJP spokesperson, into this conversation as well. Vinita ji, if you're there with us, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
Well, Pinrayi Vijayan, has he failed the state of Kerala? And should he be held accountable for what has happened today? And of course, a build-up to a number of, terrorist ecosystem which has plagued Kerala in the last few years.
No, absolutely. I mean, it is extremely disturbing to see how my state is becoming a vulnerable hotspot for all kinds of terrorism and all kinds of, disturbing events like what happened today. It's extremely unfortunate, and it's an isolated incident in terms of the India story. The India story, we are making our borders so fortified and strong. The Modi government is doing so much to, for anti-terror activities, and the kind of, if you see our history over the last decade, we've not had these kind of terrorist attacks anywhere else. And if you see before that how vulnerable we were and how strong we've become now, but Kerala seems to be an absolute anomaly in the country's, map of the map that we are resonating across the globe as a strong and, fortified country. And if you look at Kerala's history, there have been various such incidents, starting from, 2003, where we had the Murad massacre in the beach, where, many Hindu fishermen were killed in the Murad beach. Then we had 2 bomb blasts in 2006, which were also these kind of, Lone Ranger, as a professor said, but then they were, they had links to various terrorist sources across the globe. And we have seen how these kind of terrorist, attacks have had links with ISIS, and the PFI crackdown recently in Kerala is also, is also kind of a manifestation of the deep malaise that's there in the Kerala society, even if it's a Lone Ranger attack. But, we have to probe into the kind of malaise that is plaguing our society today. So what is the reason that people are resorting to such violence, and that too in a kind of a domestic event, in a Jehovah Witness group, a Christian religious group, event where there are so many people congregating. So this is absolutely a completely dastardly and terrorist attack, even if it is done by one single person. So I think what we are demanding is a probe, and NIA and of course the investigating agencies have also started probing into it, but Kerala government should ensure that those who are injured should be taken care of, and also probe deeply into this series of attacks that are happening in Kerala. And also, as you said, hosting a Hamas leader in a public event in Kerala is absolutely it's extremely disturbing to see. Are we not part of India? Are we not echoing the same story as the government of India on the terrorist attack that happened in Gaza? So I mean, we cannot have a different voice, in the state when the country is kind of, hymning a different, humming a different tone.
Right. Rahul Ishwar? Rahul, if you're there with us? Rahul Ishwar? All right, perhaps not. Mr. Kevin Matthew, if I can come to you, sir.
Yeah, Vineet, what has happened today is it's a very sad incident, and the loss of life, the harm, the hurt that has caused, it is absolutely, there's no justifying that. And the person, one person has surrendered, and he is a fringe element. But let us not. It's a very sad event, and somebody has lost their lives, lost people are hurt. But today, let us not use that for our political advantages. So what the BJP is doing here right now is it's so saddening, it's so sickening, because this is one state where they have not been able to make inroads, and that is because people of Kerala recognize them for what they are and their,
Are you worried about what happened? Are you worried after what has happened today? Do you know if it's a lone wolf kind of attack? If it's a lone wolf kind of attack, are we looking at a new phenomena in terms of terrorism in Kerala?
Sir, such incidents have happened before in this country, and it is not just about Kerala. This has happened. We know various, incidents that has happened in this country, and that has happened across different parts of the country. And let us not today equate it, because Kerala is one society that maintains a secular fabric this country is all about. And the divisive politics of BJP has not come in. It is not about Muslims, and it is not about Hindus, and it is not about Christians. See, laws of life happen, and props should happen. The government, Kerala government should do the prop. The NIA should do the prop. Let us get behind this. Let us come together and get behind this rather than getting divisive over it. I'm absolutely sorry, Vinit, but that is.
But who's getting divisive?
We should do.
Rahul Ishwar is back with us. Vinita ji, I'll come to you momentarily. Rahul, I want to come to you. Rahul, I have a question for you. First of all, what's happened is tragic. But what was the preface to this particular attack was also the Pinrayi Vijayan government, not taking the government side in terms of, being pro-Hamas, and not in fact toeing the line when it comes to India's foreign policy. And of course, that event also in which Shashi Tharoor was present is also going against the official stance that India has taken. Considering that we are all from a country that has had its stint with the radicalization and Islamic terror, do you think the Kerala government, with the background that it has been infamous for the past few years, should be more sensitive?
Yeah, two humble submission. First of all, I went because there is an update. 3 people right now is being reported to be killed, and nearly 36 people, have serious injuries. So condolences to the departed. And second, let us understand the context in this. One Dominic Martin has accepted that he is the person who carried out the blast, and he is from Jehovah Witness itself. So there is a religious or extremism angle linked to it, and people like Praveen, people like Kevin, who are responsible from Christian community, should take care of such radical elements. But the Hamas issue is totally different and very serious too. Please remember, Palestine not equals Hamas, and Hamas not equals Palestine. We are with Palestine from the time of Mahatma Gandhi himself. But at the same point of time, Hamas is a radical organization which carried out a terror attack on October 7th. Let us not shy away. And I would appreciate, Modi ji strongly took a stand. Perhaps he was first of the world leaders to take a stand. Even Shashi Tharoor ji, who is a global cosmopolitan, took the same stand, calling it a terror attack. We shouldn't shy away from calling a terror attack a terror attack. Sadly, our Chief Minister Sri Pinrayi Vijayan went to the extent of saying, when a bold communist like Shailaja teacher called it a terror attack, Sri Pinrayi Vijayan said, you should ask her why she said so. And there has been some communists out of vote bank consideration going on blindly justifying them. So this is absolutely demeaning. Palestinians are our brothers, but Hamas is not our brother. Hamas is a radical extremist militant organization that need to be curtailed. Yes, India may not have designated it a terror organization, but US, European Union, UK, they have all designated it. And when you touch Hamas, you are crossing a line. You are crossing a line that is very tough to come back. We have great
but he can turn around and say, Rahul, that we haven't declared them a terrorist organization, so there is nothing illegal about it.
I mean, that's only a technicality. And please remember, 1,400 innocent people were butchered. I mean, whether they be Jews or Arabs or Hindus or Muslims or Christian, doesn't matter. 1,400 people, when they woke up on a fine day, going to school, college, office, or going to their parents, were butchered without rhyme or reason. And 200 people were abducted. See, they were all trying to do this to derail the peace process. Some kind of a Abraham Accords 2.0 was coming. So Hamas knew that Saudi Arabia is inching close to Israel. UAE is coming close. The US, because of the US US election, some kind of an Abraham Accords 2.0 would be coming. So Hamas is the enemy, and Palestinian people will have to pay the price of Hamas. And Israel, of course, went overboard, killed 6,000 to 7,000 people, Palestinians. Who is responsible? Hamas instigated it. Hamas started it. And just one more line. There is a clash of civilization happening in the world, but India is the consensus of civilization. India is a nation which has leverage with both Israel and Palestine, with both America and the Muslim world or the Arab world, with both Iran and also the Western world. So India definitely, I would, as an Indian beyond politics, I would want Modi ji to be that world player or a world leader who can emerge as a consensus maker, because we have great leverage with both. But we should definitely not touch the hardline elements. Similarly, there are hawkish policies in Israel too. There are even ministers who say we won't allow Palestinian to exist. Even America condemned. Israel's all-weather friend US condemned a Israel minister who said we are real Palestinians and the Palestinians here are not the inheritors of the place. So there may be hawks in every community. We need the voice of moderation. And let me conclude by saying just one thing. The solution is what the founder of Israel said. The founder of Israel, founder of the modern state of Israel, Ben Gurion, had a photo of Mahatma Gandhi in his bedroom. This was documented by Israel embassy, and he said the entire ethical force of East lies in the leader of Indian freedom movement, Mahatma Gandhi. Unless we take a moderate stand, the issue is not going to be solved. And please don't encourage terrorism, and responsible Christian leaders like Kevin should strongly condemn what happened, and even though there is no connection with this, should condemn this happened. And see, I'm a strong believer in religion and God, but we should have a sense of moderation. When we go the hard line, there is no coming back. In the name of God, religion or faith, we need not attack anyone. It's a realization that should dawn on us.
All right.
In complete agreement
Professor
with
Ronnie, Professor Ronnie, can I come to you now? Professor Ronnie? Professor Ronnie KBB, are you there with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Please.
Right. Well, you've heard the opinions of your co-panelists on what's happened here. And Rahul Ishwar is also of the opinion that Hamas and anything to do with it is, should not be allowed, especially at a stage when the central government, is trying to balance the equation. They are trying to implement a foreign policy that is so sensitive at this stage.
First of all, I would like to say that an unfortunate incident of an attack was happening in Kerala today morning. And unfortunately, we lost 3 lives. But initially, the initial response to this incident was that it was a terrorist attack, and there was some steps were taken to connect it with the Israel-Palestine, ongoing Israel-Palestine issue. But and to generalize that Kerala is a place, Kerala is a hub of terrorism and terrorist movements are actively. But today evening, one person that he is from among that community, that Jehovah Witness community, that he came forward and he acknowledged that he is responsible for the event. Anyway, it is fortunate that at least today itself, that person took the responsibility. Otherwise, the whole incident would characterize it as a kind of terrorism, and Kerala is a hub of terrorism. Okay. Anyway, Rahul Ishwar has put forward his points, and it is really acceptable. So we are against all kinds of terrorist activities, whether it is Hamas or Israel or whoever doing the terrorism. It is against humanity, it is against law, and it is against the world. It's kind of our values. So we have to isolate Hamas. That is a viewpoint I want to put forward. But we are strongly.
But how do you isolate the Hamas when you're going to allow people from the Hamas to, be present at meetings and conventions and congregations in Kerala? And, that's happening right under the nose of the authorities and the administration.
The different viewpoints are there. Okay, they have their own viewpoint, the people who convened the meeting, and I strongly believe that they express solidarity with Palestine, not with Hamas, I think, because everybody who want peace, they're with Palestine. But unfortunate is that India, when there was a resolution in UN yesterday for a ceasefire in Palestine, Israel, and India abstained from that voting. That is really unfortunate. That if we want to an international peace, and since Mahatma Gandhi or since our freedom movement, we are strongly with Palestine. The need of the hour is for a settlement. The need of the hour is a ceasefire. The need of the hour is a peaceful.
Right, but Hamas is not Palestine. Hamas is not Palestine, and Professor Nalapat, India does have the right to amplify its stance, doesn't it? Considering, there are more powers at play today when it comes to Israel and Hamas and Palestine that were there, when Indira Gandhi or Rajiv Gandhi were the Prime Minister, and they had this, incredible rapport with Yasser Arafat. I'm sure, sir, you were a young journalist those days.
Well, I'd like to say very clearly that our relationship with the Palestinians goes back right since the time of Indian independence. And I'd also like to point out that that particular resolution that we abstained on contained an infirmity. It did not name Hamas. It did not name and shame Hamas. It's very important to name and shame the terror organization that conducted this act of terror on October 7. Secondly, they called for an indefinite ceasefire, not a humanitarian pause, or they called it a humanitarian ceasefire, but there was no time limit on the ceasefire. So in effect, what was being signaled is that Hamas acted, we're not going to worry about that, but now there should not be a reaction to that, which is why the Canadians brought forward an amendment that you name and basically condemn Hamas. And if that amendment had been accepted, then India would definitely have joined in that kind of resolution. But it's joining in a resolution which does not name Hamas, the perpetrator of that terror attack of October 7. Essentially, what you're saying is that attacks on a particular community are okay, attacks on another community are not okay, which is not true. As has correctly been said by the discussants, all communities are equal, all communities should live in harmony together, and all communities have a right to full equality and protection. So that is why India abstained, because Hamas was not named and because there was no time limit to the ceasefire.
All right, Vinita Ariyaran, how do you respond to what Professor Ronnie has said? That there is a traditional support for Palestine, that India should definitely pay a lot more weightage to.
No, as resounding what Professor Nalapat said and what Rahul Ishwar said, we are, our sympathies and our empathies are with both the countries, Palestine and Israel, but we are singularly against terrorism of all forms, and Hamas is a manifestation of terrorism. If you look at the history of Hamas, it's a jihadi militant organization, the genesis of which was just militancy and terror attacks, and they've embraced philosophies like suicide bombing. And so this kind of, and taking, innocent civilians hostage is their philosophy, is their policy, and we can never stand with a terror attack that has been instigated by an agency such as Hamas. And the reason why, as Professor Nalapat has also very clearly said, the reason why we abstain from voting is because the word Hamas was not mentioned in the resolution. So therefore, we need to have a conclusive stand against Hamas and against terror of all forms, terrorism of all forms. So that is the reason why we abstain from that. But coming to the humanitarian aid aspect, Modi ji has also, our government has gone forward and given humanitarian assistance to Palestine, as well as we are also, with Israel in the struggle against terrorism. So we want peaceful borders, as was stated very clearly in the UN, in the United Nations. We want fortified peaceful borders through negotiations and not through terror attacks and not through war. So we are against war, we are against terrorism of all forms.
All right. Well, that's a valid point, and we've also run out of time. What has happened in Kerala is definitely going to have a long-term ripple effect on how we are going to look at Kerala, and of course how a common Keralite is going to look at his own state and the safety surrounding it. Would like to thank all my guests for being a part of this conversation.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.